Okay, good to be here. Thank you for turning out on an evening to hear me ramble on about India and South Asia for a little bit. And I thought, so the monsoon, as Alison said, is my obsession. So a lot of my pictures have clouds in them, but that just comes with the territory when you go to South Asia. So that's why this picture of the Taj Mahal is a little more cloudy than you might have seen it. And it also has the river in it, which is also my other great love. That's the Yamuna. Also, from this distance, there are no tourists, which is sort of nice, because we like to be off the beaten track, right? So the Taj Mahal is hardly off the beaten track. So where are we going to talk about? Where am I going to talk about? I'm going to take you on a sweep around bits of Pakistan and northwest India. This is the edge of the Tibetan Plateau. And I'm going to take you up also to look at some stuff in Ladakh, which is up here, right on the edge of the Tibetan Plateau, but on the Indian side of the border. So that's why and there's my friend, the Rolls Royce, so to speak. There's the Indus River, after which India is named, after all. That's what it means, the land of the Indus. So, yeah, well, of course, it's a historical place, isn't it? People have been there a long time, since the Indus Valley civilization. But, of course, there's lots of beautiful historical stuff to see there. This is a graveyard, actually. Let me take this off so I can... Here we go. I don't feel like I'm being interviewed by the Gestapo all the time. So this is a graveyard, actually. It's a Mughal-era graveyard in Pakistan near the Indus Delta. And as you can imagine, it's the same age as the Taj Mahal. It's just a little bit older, and of course a lot more private. So you can wander around this, what they call a necropolis. So these little Mughal-era tombs out on the edge of the desert there. Beautiful place. Then up in the mountains, of course, well, the Mughals were Muslims, right? So, but if you go up into the mountains, you can see lots of Buddhist structures. This is actually a fort, but this is the Indus River Valley in Ladakh. The Indus River itself is down the bottom there. So this is a fort that they painted to keep the invading Kashmiris at bay. It didn't really work, actually, but never mind. And of course, my own countrymen have stomped around the South Asia a little bit, so occasionally you come across more recent 19th century history. It looks like a little bit of sort of southeast England dropped into the Indian Himalaya. This is Shimla, which is the old summer capital of the Raj, and quite delightful. Oh, yes, well, not everywhere is delightful. When you get off the beaten track, you really run into some really rum places. I want to talk to you about food now, because I like eating, as like most people in Louisiana like eating, don't we? So when you're in the field, you just have to eat where you have to eat. And we used to call this the restaurant, because it was the only restaurant within about 20 miles when we were out coring on the Indus Delta. It's quite near the coast here. They didn't seem to mind throwing all the trash down there, but, well, inside was okay. I don't remember actually being sick. It's a great way to get... It's a great way to lose weight, actually, doing field working. So this is a more typical roadside stop. This is actually in India, not Pakistan. And this is actually my favourite type of Indian food, because you never get sick eating samosas, because they're fried like in this fierce oil. I have never been sick. You could probably put a rat inside one and eat it, and it would still be good. This is, however... a more typical, it's one nice thing about the vegetarian food in South Asia, actually. It's also safer and helps you lose the weight. So this is a spicy dal. It's a nice chili pepper stuck in there. This is definitely Pakistan, because we've got our roti, our chapatis there. So of course more bread, and then rice is further south. So the further northwest you go, you see where you're eating lunch, but there's not a shred of rice there at all. Quite nice. Oh, not everything is so basic. That's like a complete staple. This is a bit fancier. This is lamb ribs and cauliflower, and that looks like Kashmir, sort of Afghani chicken. That was a lot more fancy. That was from the end of a long trek where we damn well earned it. So field work doesn't have to be scummy, though, right? So especially if you're up in the mountains. This is a field lunch that we had in Ladakh about 10 years ago. This is my old postdoc. And in this field trip, we were living high on the hog here, because we had a cook and a tent and even a lunch table, and looking up at the beautiful geology around us. This guy's the Vice Chancellor of Delhi University these days. So even geologists get to run things sometimes. And this summer I enjoyed this tasty feast. This almost looks like Irish stew, in my opinion, but it's from Ladakh. It's from the high Himalayas. Lamb and these barley dumplings and kale, actually. So it's quite unusual sometimes to think about South Asian food. You don't often think like that. It was excellent. So once we've survived our food, the other most dangerous thing to do in South Asia is to drive around. So this is a picture of Kardungla. It's it's not the highest motorable road in the world. That's what they like to tell you. It's a lie, but this is the pass. You have to stop and show the army your checks, your passes here. And then if you go further up, you get up to the pass, which is a tad under 18,000 feet elevation. Do not run around when you get out of the car. I did it once and regretted it. My lunch didn't stay with me too long. And then, of course, with the monsoon, with the rains and landsliding and what have you, chaos and delays are common. So this is a bit lower down. This is near Manali, and we've had like a landslide. The bulldozers have had to come through and bevel the road off. And then, of course, while that's happening, a huge traffic jam assembles, and then there's mayhem trying to get trucks and buses past one another while everybody looks on in horror. At least it's not dangerous. So up in Ladakh, they are philosophical on the road, right? So this agency, the Himank, the border roads people, they make all the roads in the high country there, and they like to put signs next to the side of the road to encourage you to be safe. Things like this, if married, divorce, speed. And that's my favourite one, which has been taken down some years ago, which was said something like, how I missed my lover as he sped off into the Indus, which I... But and then you could almost write a PhD about the next one. So this is really has so many levels to it. Don't gossip, let him drive. No comment. So there's always entertaining things to see on the road. The Pakistanis are particularly good at pimping their trucks. I mean, this is beautiful. I wish he'd come around and see to my Mini. So and then of course you always see massively overloaded stuff. I have no idea how many people on the back of this rather small pickup, but plenty. This is the winter actually. So mod cons, conveniences, modern life. This is on the way back. This is the ladies' toilet. You might wonder what I'm doing in the ladies' toilet, apart from taking a picture. So don't throw your rubbish down inside. You should throw it down over there instead. There are some really fancy places to stop. This is the fancy hotel on the way back out of the field. It's not really a hotel, actually. It's mostly just somewhere to eat. They've got some fancy garden furniture, but it's pretty basic stuff, mostly noodles and boiled eggs. Oh, speaking of which, this is another thing you see a lot in the Himalayas, a parachute restaurant. So this is a parachute from like the military operations that the locals have snaffled up after the army have gone home, and then they turn it into a tent and then into a restaurant. So you can sit down over here, and these ladies will make you noodles and boiled eggs and sodas and stuff like that, and tea and things that won't make you sick. So, of course, once you've survived that, you have to go out and collect some rocks, right? But it's not an unpleasant experience. It can be a bit tiring. This is a lake called Pangong Tso. This is the Indian end. The Indian Army have a base over here. And if you trundle to the other end, the Chinese Army have a base at the other end. And I was going to say they never meet, but I'm told that's a lie. That apparently the Chinese trade furry coats to the Indians in return for... Oh, no, it's the other way around. Somebody has thermos flasks, that must be the Chinese, and then the fuzzy coats come from the Indians, and they meet in the middle and switch coats from time to time. This is on the edge of a very big fault like the San Andreas in California, which is running up this valley. But there are some beautiful places to camp. This was my tent this last summer. We're a little bit under 15,000 feet elevation. It's a bit strange going to sleep sort of like panting while just lying there in your sleeping bag. It takes a few days to get used to it, but it's quite a nice view. And then further north again, this is the Shyok Valley. I'm on top of a monastery here, and there's this giant U-shaped bend in the river here that runs down. I always think of this as being like Death Valley with Buddhists in it. There are sand dunes and camels pounding around down there. It's the old Silk Road, essentially. And you'll see that little thing over there, or it's not so little actually, it's the Buddha. That's him a little bit closer up. It's huge. You can see there's people down there. This is a massive statue in the middle of the valley. There's dominating it. The mountains behind, by the way, are the Karakoram. If you follow up this, you just get to a glacier, and then if you go over the top, which you won't because somebody will shoot you, is Pakistan. Well, that's another story. So in 2012, though, I went on a long trek, the longest trek I've ever done here. 9 days. I lost 10 pounds and my student lost 15 pounds. We were pretty lean at the end of that. So this was one of our day's walks, starting down the bottom here and traipsing all the way up to the top there to camp. This is Zanskar in northern India. There's a student, Tara, showing off the day before. That's because we had been violently ill the day before and we were feeling much better, and we come up over this pass. This is a thing called an ophiolite. It's a piece of the oceanic crust that sits up in the top of the Himalayas, and we're at about 15,000 feet there. Oops. Oh, yeah. So we did have a long trek, and we were helped because you'll notice that she's not really carrying a pack, and that's because we tried that once and it was not successful. I think that would be fair to say. The two of us managed one small packet of noodles between us that evening. So usually, and it came back up. So usually, our stove and stuff was carried by these horses. This is a thing called the pass we're going, it's called Hanumala. We started off down the bottom there. We met an Italian guy coming down, and we asked him, well, how is it? And his response was splendid. He said, Hanumala, she is a bitch. And so it turned out he was not wrong. Even the horses look a bit cheesed off about it. Actually, getting up wasn't so bad. It was the coming down that was worse. This was part of the coming down. We had to trundle along this path. Yes, there is a path there. And the drop that you see there is the same on this side as well. So you can see we were a bit jelly-legged at that point, so it got a little bit nervy. Another trek that I remember there was done in 2010, and on this occasion, this was my field assistant that year. This is our helpful yak and donkey man. This is the poor donkey carrying two ginormous packs, each about the size of the donkey. And there's the lazy-ass yak carrying a handbag in the background. And about 5 minutes after I took this picture, this damn thing zoomed off up the mountain and sat up on the ridge staring down and refused to come back. So then the poor donkey got to carry everything, which was unfortunate because the next night it began to rain rather badly. The clouds came in and we had a cloudburst. So in the morning, the streams were mental, like this. We came across some Austrian guys, good to run into some mountain guys when you're stuck in the mountains. So they were getting some logs. So they're standing on rocks, but these plunge pools are a lot deeper than that. I was knocked off my feet a couple of times. It all got a little bit desperate. We were wondering whether we could get out at all. In fact, the poor donkey got stuck in a mudslide. So at that point, we were really thinking that the poor thing was going to perish. So we took all the packs and started just carrying it ourselves. I mean, it was poor, pitiful little thing. She did make it, by the way. When we got back to the Indus, it was distressingly high. And I was in a bad mood. We were supposed to be picked up. Where was our damn vehicle? It wasn't there. And we'd had to walk an extra 10 miles across the alluvial fans you see behind you with packs on. I was not in a good mood. And so I thought, where the hell was our stuff? Why didn't the hotel guy send the vehicle for us? Well, it turned out for a damn good reason. When we got back to the town, there had been landsliding. Right, this is the truck flipped upside down, and this guy had been spending the day fishing dead people out of this landsliding. So 600 people were killed in the town that day. So they had other things on their plate than some lazy-ass British guy who needed to lose a bit of weight anyway. But so this is the old bus station where it was demolished by the landsliding coming down. We were cut off for about 10 days. All the roads were washed out, so we had to to be patient. The worst thing was somebody drank all the beer in the first day. So then we had to wait there for 9 days. And of course no fridge, so it was just dal and rice and tea. I know. So, yeah, health and safety. Maybe the less said about this to the university authorities, the better. This was actually done when I worked in Scotland, and this was our typical mode of operation in Pakistan, where we get a mechanical digger to dig a pit, and then we just go in there and start sampling stuff. So there's no supports or hard hats or anything like that. Of course they don't fall in, don't be ridiculous. And then there's the local kids who are sitting there watching us, and this was our police escort. This is me, oh dear, this is me with the police escort. Pakistan's finest to keep us safe against bad dudes who might want to cut my head off and put it on the internet. And they were very chill about it. I was always worried about their, shall we say, technical expertise with that. Occasionally they let us fart about with the guns too, so that we look like terrorists. And then that's about it for now. I just want to finish, if you'd like to ask some questions. One question is what plant you might think I'm standing around in there. So this is Manali, actually. It's in the Indian Himalaya. And you get down there and this stuff grows. This is the public park. We were just wandering around and there was this ginormous patch of wild marijuana growing. So I couldn't resist posing for a picture. Shameless. Thank you.